Well, I will. We can go here later, but I did hear from my high school bully. Now stands in solidarity with me, which it's really nice of him to reach out after being nominated for an Emmy.
Wait, Johnny. Welcome back to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, the podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay? It is the last episode of the season, and we're welcomed by Johnnie Ingram, the co-creator of one of my favorite shows on television, We're Here. I've been watching since season 1. It's in season 4 right now, and it has won an insane amount of awards. I'll give you a short smattering. It's won the Peabody Emmy Awards, GLAAD Media Awards, and the list continues. Now, as you know, this is the last episode before I take a break next month. And not to be a total bitch about it, but I am putting up an episode every week on the Slatereon during that hiatus. So go join at patreon.com/gayasspodcast and make sure to come back to the main podcast in August because I've already scheduled the first guest and he's major. He's a major queen. And quickly before the episode, I just want to say if you're at That's a Gay Ass Live show on Friday, please say hi to me after and tell me what to do during Pride. I don't have a single plan, and it's an SOS, hun. But we're going to get into this episode with Johnnie Ingram. Stick around to hear about how both of us heard from our high school bullies and Johnny's upperclassman lover in high school. We also talk about We're Here with some BTS and a horny talk about the sexy men of Montreal. Bon voyage. The final episode of the season is one of the men's that I'm the most excited to speak with. It is Johnnie Ingram from We're Here, Glory. Johnny, thank you for coming on this Gay Ass Podcast. It truly is a big day for me.
I mean, I typically don't love doing these things, but whenever you reached out, I got really squealy inside, and I felt super like excited to talk about gay stuff.
And gay stuff we will talk about. Obviously, when I emailed you, I said the God's honest truth, which is I've been watching We're Here from the jump, but we're not going to start with We're Here. I kind of want to tease the listeners, edge them, if you will. And so I'd like to get into some gay stuff before that. Do you consent to going gay in general before We're Here specific?
I consent.
See, consent is sexy,
I
and
love consent.
well, the first question I have for you is we're gonna start less sexy and then get sexy because when Johnny's on the pod, we gotta go sexy. But the first thing is you've posted a few years ago a picture of you in like full football drag at fully 11 years old. You tagged the location, Morristown, Tennessee. Is this where she grew up? And did she survive football?
Ooh, wow, we consented and we're going right in for it.
Sweetie, when you consent,
I
I just go full tilt.
I definitely did not consent to playing football, but it was one of those ac extracurricular activities as they didn't have children's drag shows back then. So
Sure.
I the basics were that's what you did. You played football, and I did it. I was in a Pee Wee league, which was actually in some ways did have I did enjoy it as I got the people. I was like, I guess a husky kid,
Mm.
and I found that somehow I had in deep inside me this adorable, sweet, meek little gay boy, but people were afraid of me. So when I put on the football drag, I people were afraid to go up against me in that so-called bullpen, which was a moment when you had two. For those who don't never had the football fantasy, you have a group of people surrounding you, and you literally go head to head with another football player, and you have to tackle each other. And people were really afraid to be in the bullpen with me. So that there's my football trauma.
No, that's like actually way more layered than I thought it would be. I thought you'd be like, yeah, it sucked. But the fact that people were A, afraid of you, B, you had to do, what do you call it again when you had to do the pen in the pen?
The bullpen. It's
The
literally two. Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds truly like my worst nightmare. I don't know if I would rank that higher or lower than shirts versus skins or one-on-one bullpen. Those both sound like the thing that I would dream about uh ruining my life. But was it the huskiness that people were afraid of?
I don't know. It was just one of those things. I was like, wow, people are afraid of me. So I don't know I don't know what to do with this unusual superpower. But in the end, I was a terrible player and ended up on the sidelines. So I mean, just like everyone else, it was short lived.
Well, listen, it goes to show you that you overcame, and maybe they were afraid of you because they knew one day you'd win an Emmy. I'm gonna say that's what it was.
I will. We can go here later, but I did hear from my high school bully, that now stands in solidarity with me, which it's really nice of him to reach out after being nominated for an Emmy.
Wait, Johnny. I don't want to go to it later. I want to go to it now.
Oh, oh,
Wait, did your
I did give it to you.
give it to me, Johnny? Your bully reached out after the win?
Oh, of course. And I mean, everyone crawls out. I think I've had the privilege of making the show and really going from Morristown, Tennessee, which is not far from Dollywood. I'll give you that as well.
Thank you.
To come from a place where typically people don't actually get the opportunities that I've gotten, or even the opportunity to leave or escape,
Yeah.
so to speak. When one does, and is successful, everyone, I think, does want to celebrate you. And with all due respect to the person who tortured me in high school, although I don't want to be best friends with him, it was a nice gesture to say that what happens in high school can stay there, and I'm glad we've moved on. I'm glad that he's moved on with his life as well. So,
Yeah,
congrats.
it's a dark history that we have gotten out of because I as well had a piece of shit bully who did not leave me alone. And I don't know if you know this. I don't think you do because we're very recently now friends, but not joking, a week ago I was interviewed for the local news where I'm from in Missouri, and I first name dropped my bully, and
Oh,
as a bit mostly, but of course, it being a smaller community, it did get back to him, and I did receive a text from him like 2 days ago.
ooh.
So
And have you talked about this?
well, you
This
bringing
is
this up is so truly like the universe is doing her thing because I'm still unpacking, if we're being
yeah,
honest.
yeah. I mean, invite him to the podcast.
Well, that's so funny. So I literally, posted again. It's kind of like a bit of like, should I have him on? And it was a divisive question because some people were like, absolutely invite him on, and some people were like, do not platform him. And this being said, I want to acknowledge he sent me a very kind apology. It was like. Like, and I think you and I can even see in your face, like, we're having the same experience, which is like, we absolutely appreciate the apology, right? We're not monsters.
Absolutely appreciate it. I mean, in the dialogues that we were having 5 years ago, I mean, they're important. I mean, that's what our show is
Yeah.
about sitting down and having a dialogue, and that is where the real change happens. As
Mm.
tough as it can be, even for myself, to receiving that. And I mean, there's a lot more to unpack in that story, and I would give you a 2-hour podcast for that one, but maybe over coffee.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of it does drag out a lot of those feelings and emotions that you had back in high school. Is so traumatic, and
Oh my
you're still
God.
figuring out who you are. And I think it's
Yes.
so, and you leave that behind. And I mean, in my case, I ran away from it all, and
Yeah. Well,
you know,
I think that's exactly what you're landing on is why it's so layered. It's because we ran away for a reason. And so when it pops back up in our current life and then you like juxtapose our gorgeous gay lives we live now, and then you're reminded of the past, you're like, well, how far we have strayed from that darkness. But also, we have to reckon with like the different chapters we've had, and I think it's partly why the football photo of you like really struck me hard, because let me give you a snapshot. I am probably 13 years old in my husky phase, and I'm playing baseball, the godforsaken sport of baseball, and the godforsaken
Oh,
outfits. I mean,
I did
those.
that too,
Well,
but no photos.
no photos, please. Well, I feel like football and baseball both have like devastating outfits, namely the pants being so tight you and it's not in a way that feels cute. Now if I was in baseball drag, I'm sure I'd put a cup on and feel like I have a giant bulge and feel, fucking ready to get railed or do the railing. But like at the time, I have a memory of standing waiting to bat, and someone on the team who did happen to be my twin brother started to make fun of how I looked in my uniform in front of the whole team.
Mm.
And I always like to give a caveat, because I go hard on my straight brothers, that they have grown up to be such amazing men, such amazing fathers, and we have reckoned with this. That's why I'm allowed to talk about this. But he knows he was a total dick. And so I like the sports plus middle high school. I find that to be probably, if you distill the worst parts of growing up being gay, I think that's sort of like the perfect snapshot of what was so terrible.
Well, and I actually played football up until my freshman year of high school, and then I joined the art club, and
Thank God.
the rest is and drama club. I did the whole.
Thank
I found
God.
I found my people.
Well, yeah,
It took a minute.
we had to. I found mine as well. The only problem was when we were in PE and they still made us do shirts versus skins. And I, as a person who, and the poor listeners have heard this over and over, but I had body hair at an age that I did not want the body hair. And I literally
Oh,
remember them announcing shirts versus skins, them counting off the boys, and I somehow was on shirts. And I thought that Whoopi Goldberg herself had blessed me on that day. I truly don't know how I got
wow.
so lucky to, because I like, I hadn't done my shaving in the fucking bathroom at that point, so I probably had body hair that I thought would have burst into flames when it was revealed to the other boys. But
Wow. Well, what's so funny is those moments for me was I didn't have any body hair, so when I saw a guy who had body hair, I was like, oh, I want that. I want that body hair. So, I mean, hopefully that would be healing for you to see there was another young gay kid in your class being like, oh, I wish I could have that body
can
hair.
you imagine if I was in school with you and if you had literally said, "Oh, I wish I had your body hair," I probably would have saved at least 5 grand in copays from therapy.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's a lot of money for a nice vacation.
I know. Where should we go? I thank you for going down that memory lane. I know it can be a bit hashtag trigger ting to go back into that era, but if we do sort of go into a very happy experience, is you meeting your fellow gorgeous husband, Stephen.
Yes. Well, there's a fun fact here is we're not married, but everyone loves to marry us, and we're here for it, so it's
I
fine. But
just married you. Wait, but how long have you been together?
7 years, we're just married. We're
That's married.
married.
You're
But
married. You're married. And you're also, let me just be clear to the listeners, a not married power couple who you both created We're Here. You've both done the amazing Swiping America. So like this is, if you're not legally married, you're culturally married. So let's make that
oh, we're
clear.
definitely. I mean, we're married. The ideals of marriage, and it's complicated. In particular, I've never really been a fan of divorce. So I was like, if you really never get married, then you never have to get a divorce. And there's that. But
Love that.
Stephen is my love of my life. I truly, the moment we met, there was so much serendipity, and our friends just immediately connected. It just all just kind of swirled into this like romantic comedy that we were able to actually create a romantic documentary based off of
Oh,
just that clash of love. And we also shared a lot of advocacy, and Stephen clearly has built a career for himself in Hollywood that has represented not only the LGBTQ community and carrying it forward. He was co-chair of GLAAD
mm.
for 10 years and has just been really carrying that torch. And I We have a bit of an age difference, but that didn't get in the way. And in particular, actually, in some ways, helps us thrive as we're going against the norm and celebrating, diverse, different types of love. And we both I had done a lot of advocacy work in my marketing and advertising career. And in some ways, he has become my life partner and creative partner. And it's just been, I have to say, joy. I am so lucky to have found this and found Steve. So,
Yeah, no, I think it's a true testament to a relationship when there are so many levels of collaboration, because it's much easier said than done to be like, yeah, let's work on literally anything together. Even just like having a home together is already a huge collaboration, and then to go beyond that and to work on like in the very difficult industry of Hollywood. I do want to go into the meet cute of you and Steven, but I realize, and this sometimes happens when I have a guest like you and I just want to gab, I need to actually ask the actual podcast question I have assigned your way. So let me get into That's a Gay Ass Podcast main question. Johnny, whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, babe?
oh my gosh. I love this question, and I'm a Libra, so it's so hard for me to decide. I'm just like, there's so many people that are responsible for my gayness. I went, so I did a list.
God, I
And
love
I'm
it.
sorry, I'm going to tease this. Did a list of, I was born in 1979, so I really came into my gayness really early, as all of the most influential queer people, in particular. Well, I'll just sort of give you how I narrowed it down. I mean, one of the very first songs I ever memorized as a kid, we had an 8-track player in my mom's Trans Am,
Mm,
was Benny and the Jets by Elton John. I mean,
mm.
I was obsessed with it. I could never get enough. That was truly sort of starting to get my gay blood a boiling. But then I truly developed over. I was obsessed with Annie Lennox. I was just thought this gender nonconforming woman who is just an incredible voice. I was just enamored by Annie Lennox's music and in particular music videos that were just
Yes. Can I get a
um,
fill in the can I paint the picture here and find out at this Elton John, Benny and the Jets, Annie Lennox age, what numero age are we viewing Johnny in the car fully lip syncing / singing every lyric? How old were you?
like four. Yeah, so this is young. So that's why I'm going to get to then there's the pubescent version where I really was like gay, and I was like, these are all just kind of leading up to that. That's why I was like, how do I really get to? I mean, I was obsessed with Pee Wee Herman. I mean, who wasn't? It was just such an incredible influence on my childhood. I get to high school, and really it was that the characters I was seeing on television that allowed me to come out, and also the lesbian friend of mine in high school who basically forced me out of the closet.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I have to say, it wasn't Mario Lopez, even though I was like, I kind of wanted to. I just kind of I was obsessed with Mario Lopez and Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was fully it. I think because I was born in Eastern Tennessee, I have to just go with Dolly Parton.
Well, I was going to say, in such close proximity to the land. And then it's almost like you had no choice. I mean, I just watched this really harrowing documentary, and I'm not going to equate our homosexuality to the documentary, but I will say that in this documentary, it was about, please bear with this, it was about 6 brothers who had schizophrenia. And the reason I bring this up is because some of the brothers, their schizophrenia was maybe triggered by an event. Maybe it was latent in their genes. And again, we are not saying that homosexuality is on the same arena of schizophrenia. While we maybe hear many voices in our heads of divas, we are not, again, equating schizophrenia. But I'm thinking that Benny and the Jets, I'm thinking that Annie Lennox. I'm thinking you driving by Dolly Wood. I'm thinking that there were these multiple triggers that you did not have a single prayer of not being a faggotrini.
Oh, I mean, there was a rumor, and I say rumor because I have this aunt of mine who's now since passed, whose claim to fame is that she did Dolly Parton's hair before she went on the wig fantasy. This was like early on. I mean, my aunt was also known for telling a few tall tales, so I'm not sure how real this is, but real gossip tea
I
in
mean,
the
listen,
Appalachian Hills.
an aunt who lies, that's a gay icon. Honey, I almost don't even care. She could have said that she also sucked John Travolta's dick and I'd be like, gay. So your aunt potentially did Dolly's hair at one point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um
Actually, when Dolly before the wig fantasy, when she actually had short hair, this was
oh,
yeah.
like a Dolly, are we talking Dolly Bob?
Yeah, exactly. This is gender non-conforming Dolly
Come
before the
on.
tattooed arms.
Come on, they them Dolly. Um, do you mind giving us more of the drama on the lesbian friend here? Because you sprinkled her in, and I find that when I was growing up in my very straight land, I did not have, well, that's so not true. I did have a lesbian friend, but we didn't. Did your lesbian friend know she was a lesbian at this point?
Oh my God, Phil, like this was, I mean, you would never think in Eastern Tennessee, but I think she came out in like kindergarten. Like she was like,
God
I'm a lesbian.
bless. Wow.
We would drive around in her car because she had like a cool car, and her parents had a little bit more money than mine. And we would drive around and singing at the top of our lungs Indigo Girls, which, I mean, honestly, when that Barbie moment came in and they were like, escaping, and I was like, oh my God, that's my high school. It's exactly what I did.
Yes.
With my lesbian friend who outed me. Well, she didn't out me, but she forced me out of the closet, and that was, I'm glad she did.
Of course. I
He
mean,
was right on the nose.
right on the nose. Do you feel comfortable telling us maybe like, was it a conversation where she was like, it's now or never? Was she.
No, this is so at a time when I had like a really cute first Heartstopper style relationship in high school when I was like 15, and I met him on prom night after my prom date. Had to go home because she had a curfew and I didn't.
Sure.
So we were at this after party, and she's hanging out with her prom date, which was this guy named, I can say his name, Jason, first name.
Hot name.
And we hung out like all night. It was like that instant, like, oh my gosh, new best friends. And he was like cool and handsome. And anyhow, so we ended up hanging out a lot after that moment. And I think he was obviously talking through her, and in particular, basically where she got the real tea of us sort of doing those cute little like hangouts where suddenly her legs are just touching and her arms are touching, and we're locking the door in our bedroom, and it's really just adorable and sweet listening to music. And so she called me and one day, and just on I think I had like one of those like clear phones with like all
Yeah.
the different colors
Oh, yeah.
inside, and she was like, Johnny, you're gay. And I was like, ah, yeah. I did one of those, and then eventually on that same call, I knew it. I was in love with Jason, and I was ready to go, you know, do my full on Heartstopper prom moment until he dumped me for some college man. But long
Johnny,
story
you're.
short, it was very, very, very sweet.
That sounds so sweet. It's like I had a feeling that you had a really colorful herstory, but you keep on dropping these nuggets because I did not have a heart stopper at all. I only dreamt of having a crush that was a two-way street. I was too busy falling for the straight guy who did not care if I live or died. Did you kiss Jason prom night or did it come later?
No, we didn't kiss then. Actually, I gave we for his graduate. He's 2 years older than me, so for his graduation, we did it all.
So he's 2 years older, so he's a
Yeah,
senior, you're a sophomore.
yeah. Yeah.
And do you
So,
remember, okay, this being your first time, do you remember feeling like, oh my God, fireworks? Or was it like, I have no idea how this is going, how it works, and it was what it was?
oh, I was channeling Madonna. This was time when I knew I thought I had the sexiest moves going on, and he lived, we basically had a room in his parents' basement, and we, hung out there, and we were playing music, and next thing you know, before we could get our clothes off, we had to take take a break,
Sure.
and then we did it again.
And if that's not high
So
school,
it's
hon, I don't know what is.
yeah,
I
yeah.
say this
So
with so much love, but my jealousy right now is I'm seething. I'm seething with jealousy.
I mean, I have to say, not all my experiences were great. I think I had a very traumatic experience later, but I do cherish this moment so much. And when I watch Heartstopper, it's like reliving that adorable high school, just alternative lifestyle, cool kids that aren't cool, but they're kind of cool because they're just so human and grounded
Yeah.
and in touch with their arts. And that one moment on Heartstopper when they're on the dance floor and it sees the lesbian couple. I mean, I bawl in that song. Oh my God, it's so good. Um,
No,
and it's literally that's
it's so touching to see that fantasy come alive in Heartstopper, and I absolutely bawled as well. And if I may make another gay reference, there's a song in the musical Fun Home. Did you ever see Fun Home?
I've not.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm my musical. Stephen is a big musical person, and I'm in school. I
Okay.
am in school.
And that honesty is beautiful. When I inevitably get to meet the gorgeous Steven, I will be having a musical theater talk with him. But this musical Fun Home is based off of Alison Bechdel's, graphic novels, blah blah blah. And she, in the novel and in the musical, the girl that plays like the middle version of her when she's in college, it's her first ever experience kissing a girl. And the song is called Changing My Major. And she's in college, and the whole song is how she's changing her major to Joan, the person of Joan. She's so obsessed with this kiss. She's so obsessed with having fallen asleep in a bed with a person she actually wants to be with, and it feels good to be with. And she's singing about how her entire life now revolves around that kiss, that person. And I watched that show weeping so many tears because I and you and anybody listening who was, growing up not able to actually express themselves the way that they wanted to, that feeling of for the first time that you felt with Jason, that I felt with Jacob my freshman year of college after we went to a Shabbat service, when I had that
Oh,
first delicious kiss, there's nothing in the world like it. If they could bottle that feeling, it would start wars.
that's actually bringing back memories. I feel like now I can, yeah, there is like almost a taste I can remember.
Oh,
There is a moment. Yeah,
I'm sure you
it was a
can.
moment. It was definitely a moment.
Yeah. And by the way, one of my friends is named Jason, and he's really fucking hot. So I'm kind of like projecting his face onto the Jason that you were with. Well, the things that made you gay are, it's a stunning, stunning list, but I do want to get into a first thank you for the we're here of it all. Now, if anybody listening has not yet embarked on the fourth season, hopefully you will. The first three featured god tier drag queens: Shangela, Eureka, Bob. I told you this when I emailed you this. I cried. I laughed. It's just, they were so good. And then when he brought new queens for season four, of course, me being the Virgo type A girl was like, oy vey, hopefully they can nail it. And Sasha Velour, Priyanka, Jada Essence Hall, and Latrice Royale, how dare I have any single doubts? It is an unbelievable season. And the advocacy, the attention that you're putting on what is happening in the real world, it is not to be said without the gravitas of holy shit. So can I just say mazel tov on creating a show that I think will affect generations?
I mean, it just gave me chill. I thank you. I have a hard time. It seemed overwhelming that we were able to we did this. I mean, that's for me. It's so, you know, I'm a crier. tearing up now, but it's, I don't want to, this is a comedy podcast, so I'm going to shake it off. The importance of telling rural queer stories is being from Tennessee, was always been a passion of mine. And I've always, even I had a career before working in unscripted television in marketing and advertising, but I'm an artist, and I've
Yeah.
always, even working, and had to pay the bills and had to also escape Tennessee, to live my gay fantasy. And to do that, I had to create a lot of advertising. But even then, I was learning how to tell stories. I was learning a lot about comedy. I learned a lot about animation. I learned a lot about the different types of storytelling through short format ads that sold other people's products. But I mean, somehow
Right.
found ways to put myself into some of those stories, not all, but some, and to be able to then eventually create something that was fully ours, that was fully with my partner, Stephen, and the help of a lot of really amazing, talented folks, and to
Hmm.
really also have queer folks behind the scenes. And from the wardrobe team, the makeup team, I mean, everyone involved with this incredible piece of art has been, it's a huge privilege, and I wish I could take full credit. I definitely can't, but I definitely want to share this with all of those folks. And
Yeah.
so I think that means that was a long thank you.
No, I fully embrace that, and even just the vulnerability you can bring on this little podcast, it just goes to show how much you have used it as a strength. And I just want to shout out, why it means so much to me. Obviously, I told you I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and in season 1, you had an episode in Branson, Missouri, huge for me. Season 2, you go to Watertown, South Dakota. I got to when I was doing theater. I traveled doing a show, and I did South Dakota twice. I did North Dakota. I was in all these different states. And then in season 3, you have a New Jersey moment, and you think, like, of course, the Northeast, it's like, it's going to be all just liberal and fun. But when I was living in New York, not only would I go to like upstate or wherever and be like, oh my God, it's just like I'm back in the Midwest. Side note, complete ADHD moment. But even me as a Jewish person, I was working at a restaurant in Brooklyn, and these coworkers who like lived in Queens did not believe that I was Jewish because I didn't have payas. And I was like, girl, you live in New York, figure it out. Back to we're here. It's just like you putting these spotlights on these different places. It, in a way, it does something that I'm desperate to do with my voice and with my creativity, which is like spread hope that there is a life for us in the places that we ran away from. And I think that we're here. I can only imagine it must have been very hard to dream of creating a show that, put drag, this incredible art form, but it's very campy. There's so much comedy with it, with also these like, pretty difficult, there's like literal laws that are trying to ban and, ruin queer people's lives. So to be able to put that together, when you were casting the first season, without, however comfortable you feel giving us the deets, what was the process like to say, okay, we need these queens to be able to like really be incredible at their art, but also have a deep, deep humanity to deal with people going through really difficult circumstances?
I was a really great question. Well, I'll give you a little background. I mean, I worked when I escaped Tennessee, I worked in drag bars in Chicago when I was putting myself through art school, to be my art gay self,
Yes.
artistic gay self. And I learned a lot about the drag community and the trans community there, in particular, from the ground. And I really honestly worked in this one particular restaurant slash cabaret slash turned into just like a wild party at night, place that just was honestly had so much fun. It was one of the most wonderful moments of my life. And when I was there, my mother would come to visit, whom we were not really talking a lot about my queerness. Is one of those things that we don't talk about, kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
sort of,
Yeah.
and we were at that stage of our relationship. Now we're way past that, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
But what I found was when she came to, I brought her to these drag shows, and it was just she had the best time, and I was
Wow.
just starting to have a dialogue. For some reason, it's so unhinged, it's so entertaining, it's so campy and fun that there's real conversations that were started between us, and it really opened up some doors that I wasn't even willing to open myself.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I brought a lot of that into our casting for this particular first iteration of We're Here. What we really wanted to showcase was different types of drag artists, in particular, Bob, whom all of the cast members are from RuPaul's Drag Race, naturally, because RuPaul has elevated just so many incredible, talented voices and drag
Mm-hmm.
performers, and they're whomever cast that show. I know a few friends of ours, Galoka, there's a lot of really great people who cast and help bring some of these queens into the competition, but that also thrive, and you really get to know a competitive side of these performers. But we really wanted to share the point of view of the maternal drag mother side,
Yes.
and the ability
Yes.
to sit down and really have difficult conversations in places that it's not as glamorous and rhinestone, but which is honestly what they do on the regular anyhow. It's like when they're on
Oh yeah.
tour, I mean, you like you said, when you're experiencing the tour, going from place to place to place,
Yeah. That
and
is
people come
not
up to you,
glamour.
and in the meet and greet, they people really do share their personal stories, and how much it means to be, in the presence of such glamour and queerness
Hmm.
and that thick skin. So I think it was important that we had queens with empathy, or the ability to have empathy, but also the ability to bring a level of drag and drag performance that was unhinged, that was HBO quality, that
Yes.
had a little edge to it. I didn't want it to be fairy godmothers. I mean, there were other actual shows that
Mm.
premiered in and around the same time we premiered that had that a, a little bit of a veil, layer to, which I know I don't really want to throw any negativity towards any of those shows in particular, but we really had the opportunity to be authentic and have authentic drag personas, and let that be, because we were on HBO, and HBO has
Right.
been a really true partner in letting us tell our stories the way we want to tell them. So I think that was important to convey, was authenticity.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me, the HBO of it all, because I think, like, if I may harken back to one of the first true bonding experiences I had as a queer person who wasn't out yet was watching Sex and the City with my mother, and the HBO of it all being a platform to be that raw and real. You're absolutely right that the queens, in of course on season 4 as well, the way that they relate to people, it's not that like we're gonna, for lack of a better term, whitewash the experience of just like, we are fierce and you're gonna be fierce too, cunt. It's like, no, actually, I'm this queen is, while of course being a drag mother, is gonna shed her own tears when she's being confronted with her own past and bringing that strength to it. And I do think that that's like the authenticity that you're saying. There's a quote that you have. I mean, you have so many amazing interviews that I've been reading up on. And one of the quotes that I love that you wrote is, or that you said, is that basically you're talking about how, like, the bigots, the awful people may have a megaphone, but I think what's really important is when we show up together. The L's, the B's, the G's, the T's, the Q's, and the drag queens are leading the charge and saying there's definitely a lot more love out there than hate. And that is importante. And I think that with this show, I mean, season 4 focuses on, instead of as multiple cities as you were doing in the earlier ones, we're focusing on Tennessee and Oklahoma, sort of a more of a fuller arc in these places. But not to get ahead of ourselves, but do you have a dream for, like, is it running, 48 seasons? Is it like, what are you so exhausted that you're on a 4 season plan? Like, what do you dream for yourself in the show?
I mean, 4 seasons is insane, especially
Insane.
4 seasons of a show with this deep storytelling, and I'm an emo queen, so and to be able to do this again and again and again. I mean, We're Here is really layered. It's literally the present tense. It's
Mm-hmm.
the four queens this season going to a physical place. It's derivative of we're here, we're queer, get used to it.
Yeah.
It's and in I think it's all of these things, but in particular, it's a piece of art, and I think like art, it has evolved to meet the moment. In particular, our first season ended up unexpectedly being a COVID season,
Mm.
and we leaned into that. Our last episode, it was the very first COVID episode. We filmed the entire thing like this over a Zoom conversation,
Yeah.
virtually. Being a first time television and producing a show, to do that I mean, I can feel my stomach tightening up. It was so nerve wracking because I
Yeah.
really wanted this show to be something for us, for our community, and I wanted the stories to culminate, and we were able to do it. I really am so proud of that episode. The second season was just like, get the season. I don't know how they're giving us. HBO has been so generous to give us the season, and I don't know how we're going to do this in the middle of a pandemic, but we're going to do this, and we did it. And I'm so proud of that season. Season three was like, a world is opening back up. We were able to sort of get
Yeah.
back into like pride celebrations and existing together. And then now with season four, we unexpectedly were in this political nightmare where again, I keep saying, a handful of conservative leaders are just flooding the system with this insane anti-LGBTQ bills, anti-trans bills,
Yeah.
anti-drag bill. And I think I just was listening to Sarah Kate Ellis from GLAAD just say that I think of the 500 bills that were tried to introduce this year, I think it was only 36 that have. I mean, still anything that passes is horrible, but 36 is only enough that one have been able to pass. And I think it goes to show, really, we do truly outnumber the haters, but they are very loud and do have the microphone. So season four was about actually exposing, I would say, the man behind the curtain, who is literally one
Yeah. Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
He probably has, like, 35 Instagram accounts and is just spreading hate across comment sections, or who is showing up to these pride celebrations in these small communities to scare people away. And I think it
Yeah.
was when we showed that, exposed that this season, and we exposed the people that are sitting in these city council meetings. It's literally like a couple of Christian nationalists that are just screaming absurdities, at a panel of people that are, probably also identify as Christian. And, it can somehow relate more to that community because the LGBT community is so afraid to show up in these rooms because they've been forced out of them. So I think it was just
Yeah.
really, hopefully, motivate our community this particular season to show up in these spaces, and to get the L's, the B's, the G's, the T's, the Q's, the I's, the A's, the plus, everybody together, because together we are a huge force to be reckoned with. And even part of the culmination of the show is, I used to just say, I'm just a G and a BLT. And that, really getting to know the other folks in our community. I know we all end up hanging out in silos, and especially in these small towns, everyone is forced into, their homes, or to hang out in isolation. But really, to bring drag at this level and bring these queens that everyone's a huge fan of, and it really brings everyone together. I mean, it's like a little, a pride moment, even though it may not be Pride Month.
Yeah.
And I think that was the magic of We're Here, to really to bring out the folk to show up, and we do this season, and it's scary, but it is very eye opening to see that there really are just a small handful of crazies.
Yes, there are, and it's just such a testament to the fucking brilliance of that title. Like, can we just say the title of We're Here? It's even what you were just saying there. The meaning can change from season to season. It's like, yes, we are here as queer people together. Yes, we are here against the fucking two asshole voices that are somehow drumming up a little bit of a following to introduce these bills. We are here to welcome each other, to show the world. It's just so many layers layers, and it's almost like I'm picturing myself as a teenager right now and saying the words like, babe, we're here. It's like you feel so like fucked. You feel so alone and weird, but it's like, girly, we're here. It's like not to get too emo as you say, because I'm also an emo girl, but it's like it's so delicious, and I could spend literally 3 more hours talking about that deep meaning. But with all this talk of queendom, I do need to ask you the next famous podcast question, which is, Johnny, if the world was ending, you could only save one character actress. Who would you save?
Oh, I mean, this was another Libra moment for me.
I know, girl.
um,
I know.
and I really, I adore Molly Shannon so much.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
and I have met her multiple times in person, and actually, Stephen is also her entertainment lawyer. So that was
What?
come from a place of privilege, and I just name dropped. But I love her so much. I love her as a character actress. I love her. I mean, I was a huge fan of Superstar before I met Steven and had this
Oh,
ultimate full circle
yeah.
moment. And you know what's really interesting is her husband Fritz, who's an artist, and we have some of his art in our home, which is amazing. He's a really talented artist, but his parents are from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which was where we
Whoa.
had this season culminate in that insane meet and greet gone Christian nationalist.
Right.
Um, and they watched We're Here season 4 and were just so enamored by it. And to to be Molly's also just shown up for her community. She's shown up for us in the show. I mean, I have to save her. I'm sorry that she. I mean, I could love to give her a +1, but I don't know if that's allowed.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I think like feeling I'm feeling a little teary thinking about Molly watching it, and I can't exactly pinpoint why, but I think it's because that question is so fucking stupid of like the character actress, but it comes from a real place of like these are the women who we marvel at their abilities as performers, but then like we secretively, instinctively hope that behind the scenes they also want to be our mothers as people. And Molly, picturing Molly watching We're Here and just also her awareness of how much, especially us faggotrinis, love her. Like, the answer is stunning. Molly Shannon, the armpit sniffing, the I love it, I love it, I love it on SNL, the other two of it all, the her, I mean, and the fact that you know her personally, I'm
I
gonna have to
mean,
ask. Like, she must be great
uh,
off cam.
absolutely. I mean, if you want to just have, you want to connect with someone that you just feel like that is literally your mother, who is just so incredibly passionate about the arts and about creating and about who representing, Hollywood. Molly Shannon is a through and through a wonderful, incredible human being, and
Yeah,
I am just when I first met her, I was a little nervous, but then she broke that down in like seconds, and we were just literally. I'm like, okay, this is you're it. This is your
your
I
family,
just
your family.
I love you.
Well, it's of course, and you know what I love. I want to say to Molly through this gay ass pod is that, Mama, your career has spanned decades, and I look forward to the next decades where you continue to shine, because she only continues to get better. I mean, I were you an other two fangirl?
Oh, absolutely
That
obsessed. I mean,
that
yeah.
show is so, it's just, I feel like it's so our language, it's so high low, it's so, and Molly just, you would only hope that just a suburban housewife becoming the daytime talk show star That is Molly is exactly that. And I love the answer so much. Listen, before we have to end this soon, let me make sure I do any sort of lightning rounds before we have to bid adieu. One of my notes that I wrote is if we harken back to Sex and the City, you were quoted in one of your interviews about saying a highlight from 2023 is that Kim Cattrall returned to Sex and the City slash and just like that. And you basically said that her episode came during a very dark time when like all the news was breaking that the pride festivals were being canceled across conservative towns, and you said that you believe this moment helped save Pride Month. Kim Cattrall, is she another Gerlina of yours that you, if you could save two, would she be your second?
Oh, Kim is
She
also
commented. She commented on the post that you posted.
he, he did, and again, the fruits of Stephen's labor also have represent Kim Cattrall, and he like I said, he has really helps advocate for the LGBTQ community, as does a lot of his clients. And Kim Cattrall, Canadian. I lived in Toronto, fun fact, for 6 years, and I love my Canadians.
Go off.
I'm an honorary Canadian, and Kim Cattrall is wonderful human being, absolutely genuinely thoughtful. And if there is an advocate out there that just goes above and beyond for the LGBTQ community, it's Kim. And I
Mm,
have to say that was a pretty dark Pride year. We had a lot of negative news. That was the time when a lot of the bans were being passed, and for her to really take a moment to step back out into the light to do that character that is controversial. She did it because she loves the LGBTQ community, and she said that a lot of her interviews. It was so important to put relationships aside, and what we do at the show, and to sit down and an olive branch to say, we're all just human beings. And I know you
yes.
love this character, and I know in particular I love that character because I, like you, watched us lots of Sex in the City, and it really got me through my coming of age,
Yeah.
gayness, and in particular, her character, is a gay man in a woman's body, and it really gave me permission to, explore my sexuality for more freely, and it just to have and
Yes.
to see that character and it on screen, honestly, for a minute was all I needed to save that
Oh
entire year.
my God. Yes. Well, and if we may, we had a slight horny start, and I want to do a horny end, my favorite way to end. So, I the other day was having a low moment, feeling sad. I turned on Sex in the City. I'm watching Samantha on the private jet with Richard. They're on their way to Atlantic City to celebrate Charlotte's birthday. It was the scene where I learned what a pearl necklace was. When a man, she says, decorates your neck. And to ask you a horny question, you spend these years in Toronto. You spent many of your life's years in the States. Where are the men hotter, Canada or the US?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Have you been to Montreal?
You know what? I've not been to Montreal. I've been to Toronto. I've not been to Montreal. Are we enjoying the?
Oh, Montreal has a very, I love my time in Canada. I really, truly, again, all my best friends in LA that are all expat Canadians that moved to California or New York, and both of my best friends are from Toronto. But we could do little trips to Montreal, and I have to say, the boys in Montreal are very, I love French Canadian and lover. If you like a lover.
Oh, I love a lover and a French Canadian lover. My first image is like, what are they going to whisper in my ear? Of course, I go into the topic
Poutine.
of poutine. They're fully, yeah, one of us is fully inside the other, and they're whispering poutine. Um, yes, give me that gravy. Um, are they all uncut?
I significant amount, yes. That is I know it's but I find that there are if you're there's a really good high Jewish population there as well. If that is something that you're interested in, it's a little more on the nose, but I think it's very yes. In Canada, there's a lot more uncut.
A lot more skin to go around,
Yeah.
unless you're
I
with one
mean,
of my
it's
brethren.
just a different flavor.
And it sounds delicious. Well, speaking of delicious, Johnny, you're such a handsome, special person, and I'm so grateful you came on this gay ass podcast. The final question I did not prep you on is, Johnny, if Mario Lopez did a little bit, if Elton John, Benny and the Jets made you Gaylina, if Annie Lennox made you a Montreal boy sucker, if Sex in the City helps you through, what is keeping you gay today? Those things made you gay. What's keeping you gay? Is it a sandwich, a porn, a person? What's doing it?
I would say Beyonce's country album. I mean, that for me
Bam.
was, I mean, it's pretty, that's an easy one, but I have to say, for me, as an artist, I have to say, early Beyonce, I obviously loved the bop and had a really great time in the club, but to see an artist lean into their truth and to also make people question, the reality that we live in and to their beliefs. So I thought that she is just plowing through her truth and also become such a huge voice for not only the LGBTQ community but for the Black community. And I just love her so much. And I her music, this album in particular, hit me. It hit at a time we were also filming this fourth season. So I mean, I'm gay for it.
Gay for Bay. Johnny, thank you so much for coming on That's a Gay Ass Podcast. Can you tell the listeners where to follow you and what to look out for?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram. My name is Johnny, Johnnnie, with a little gay. Johnny Instagram is my handle, as I was an early adopter, and my last name is Ingram. It's a joke, but nonetheless, that's typically where I reside. I have some other socials that makes me a little anxious to post, but that's where I really enjoy photography. That's where I sort of as a native social life. They're on Instagram. So that's it. Johnny Instagram.
Johnny Instagram, JOHNNIE. I will, of course, link to the We Are Here of it all. Everybody go watch it on Max. Season 4 is incredible. And Johnny, I hope this is just the beginning, and I'll see you hopefully soon.
Eric, it's been a huge pleasure. I had so much laughs and a few tears. What a pure joy. Thank you for asking me to be here. And can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you for listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast with me, Eric Williams, and this week's handsome, amazing mensch of a guest, Johnnie Ingram. If you enjoyed the episode, tag Johnny and me on Instagram, and with this being the last episode of the season, it would be so helpful if you rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a little love note there. And spread the word if you want to continue to see more Gay Ass Pod. Tell the globe and head on over to the Patreon to continue with me during the month of July, which I will be doing one new bonus episode there every single week before the new season premieres in August. I love you so much. It's been an amazing 2024, and I'm excited for 2024.2.